Hey, I'm firearms attorney Gilbert Ambler, and I want to talk to you about a piece that I recently read in the New York Times. Okay, and it came across my newsfeed, and I had to click on it because the piece involved stolen firearms. And before we dive into this, if you have not yet hit that subscribe button, go ahead, hit subscribe for us. Like this, comment on this, that way we can get your feedback. Share this on other social media platforms, that way you and your friends can get this important Second Amendment related content. Let's talk about what the New York Times was up to. In essence, what this article appeared to be doing was encouraging states to pass laws to mandate that firearms be kept in lockboxes inside vehicles. And the idea here is that there is certainly a problem with firearms being stolen in this country because, and there's no exact figure, but estimates seem to say that every single year in the United States of America, there could be up to 300,000 firearms stolen. And so obviously as a gun owner and as a responsible gun owner, we want to make sure that we aren't doing things with our firearms that encourage theft. And it is also true that a lot of these thefts occur from vehicles where the firearm has been left inside a vehicle. So how does the New York Times respond? They look at a place like Tennessee, which has been encouraging people, or has been considering rather, passing a law mandating a lockbox inside the vehicle if a firearm is going to be left in the vehicle. And that might be a solution. It's certainly something I would encourage people to consider. I think you should think about having a lockbox in your vehicle, although I don't think it is a good idea to criminalize victims, because that's really what we're talking about. You had a firearm stolen from you. You are the victim of that theft. And yet there are states out there that are considering making you the criminal for having failed to secure your firearm properly. That's not the way to go about this. Let's be smart on securing our firearms, but let's not make that another crime in and of itself. That's going to do nothing to solve the underlying problem. And let's talk about that underlying problem for just a minute. Because the way I see it, the reason so many firearms get left inside vehicles is because of the proliferation of anti-gun zones, of gun-free zones, right? Because when you think about this, the whole reason that you possess a firearm is to defend yourself or to defend your loved ones, and it does you no good if it is locked up in the car. Where it does you good is on your hip or on your waistband if you need it to confront a threat, because that's where you're going to be able to access it and actually deploy it. But what's going on is anti-gunners across the country are pushing gun-free zones. And look at examples of really anti-gun places like New York and New Jersey and their Brune response bills, where they try to limit the carry of firearms in virtually every public location because, of course, now they are forced to give out licenses to carry the firearms. But you could even look at more neutral states, a state like Virginia, where I practice, which back in 2020 added a list of areas that the localities within Virginia could restrict firearms. Every time we add a new restricted place to the list of a no-gun zone, what that means is it means otherwise responsible gun owners are going to be forced to leave their firearms inside their vehicles. Because if you're out and about and all of a sudden you've got to stop off and stop by, visit, drop off mail, whatever it might be, if you're going to a gun-free zone, really the only logical or doable option for you is going to be to leave the gun inside the vehicle, which of course then encourages the risk of theft. So my solution to those states or even those politicians who are considering mandating lockboxes inside vehicles is to say, if you really want to stop this problem, you should start doing away with gun-free zones to allow responsible Americans to carry their firearms with them. And one other point that the New York Times did mention, which is actually a relevant point, is identifying stickers on vehicles. If you put on a sticker on your vehicle advertising the fact that you're a gun owner, not only are you increasing the risk of theft if you do have to leave the firearm unattended inside the vehicle, but you're also hugely increasing the risk that someone is going to allege that you did something threatening with a firearm. How does this happen? Let's say you're driving, someone feels like you cut them off, didn't let them into traffic. Otherwise, they would have no real information to go on. But if you've got a Glock sticker on your back glass, all of a sudden that person's got a pretty good idea that you might carry a Glock. And now it becomes very, very simple for them to commit a crime themselves, which is to make a false report to law enforcement. Call in your license plate and say that the driver of this vehicle just pointed a small black handgun out the window at me. 3 miles later, when you get pulled over, you have no idea why you're being pulled over, but the police officer finds that you do, in fact, have a small black handgun inside your vehicle. Now they've got evidence that corroborates what that other guy told them. Guess who gets criminally charged, and often very seriously criminally charged in those scenarios. So my advice to people is, I understand gun ownership can be a source of pride. Don't advertise it on your vehicles because you're increasing the risk of theft. You're also increasing other risks like false reports against yourself. If you enjoyed this content, if you agree with me, go ahead, subscribe, comment below, like this, tell your friends about it. Until next time.